It's 7:00 PM in Downers Grove, and I will call to order the Thursday, January 18th, 2024 regular board meeting of the Downers Grove Park District Order.
Thank you, Bob.
With that, we will turn over to Bill.
Commissioner McDonald will be joining us probably 15 to 30 minutes late. She's on a work Zoom meeting and will be attending electronically. So staff would be looking for a motion in a second to approve her participation electronically when she joins.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lent,
Aye.
Mr. Kutula,
Hi,
Mr. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom.
Mr. Bender, it's second.
I got that.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bender,
Here.
Mr. Dahlstrom.
Here.
Mr. Kutula,
Here.
Mr. Lent,
Here.
Ms. McDonald.
And as is our custom, I'll ask everyone to rise. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bill, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
I do not.
On into communications. There's.
I'm looking at mine. She does have a introduction to do though.
So I would like to introduce Carter Patton. Carter is the new manager of athletics and McCollum programming. So Carter has about close to 10 years experience in the field. He's come to us, has worked at several districts and even a rec department before. Most recently, he's been at the Fox Valley Park District. Big background in athletics. You have a son or a daughter?
I have a son.
Son lives in with his wife and son in Naperville, and we're thrilled to have him. And we're looking forward to him doing great things at McCollum. So, welcome.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Guys, thank you.
Welcome, Carter.
Thank you.
Any other visitors? Not, so we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Thank you. We have a number of items for your consideration on the consent agenda this evening. Approval of minutes, December 7th, 2023, regular meeting minutes, treasurer's reports, the investments, payment and bills in the amount of $1,654.95. Approval to amend the full-time salary schedule and organizational chart to include the position of deputy director effective January 1st, 2024. Approval of ordinance 1323, an ordinance declaring certain Park District personal property as surplus and authorizing sale or disposal. Payout number 9, Integrated Lakes Management Incorporated, Natural Areas, 3-year maintenance work from 2022 through 2024. Payout number 1, Recreation Results LLC, Comprehensive Master Plan Update. And payout number 4, which is the final payout for Midwest Mechanical Group LLC, Recreation Center HVAC replacement.
I move to approve the consent agenda as read into the record.
Second. So moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Questions?
No questions.
For me.
Then, we have roll call.
Dahlstrom.
Aye.
Mr. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Kutula,
Aye.
Mr. Lent.
Aye.
We'll move along to action items. First item is the approval of part-time policy.
The updated part-time seasonal manual and part-time and seasonal personal manual is in your board pack, and Marion or myself would be happy to answer your questions.
Any questions? Oh, here to make a motion then?
We'll make a motion to approve the changes to the holiday policy for part-time employees, and the approval of the new part-time class 2 and seasonal personnel manual.
Second.
Okay. Second, any discussion, questions? Take the roll.
Mr. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom.
Aye.
Mr. Shula.
Aye.
Mr. Lunt.
Aye.
I was just looking forward, no offense, Marion, but to what Paul Bill had to say regarding Constitution Park.
Oh.
I was like, all right. Mentally, I'd already moved on.
Next item is Constitution Park.
Yeah, I will actually turn this over to Paul.
That's a lot of pressure now.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill. This evening we have for your consideration, bids for Constitution Park renovation. Just as a reminder, we have budgeted $875,000 total for the project, with a couple of things that we've purchased separately, being the playground equipment. We've also contracted installation of the playground equipment through the manufacturer, and we've purchased the shelter. The remaining items, we have about $475,000 in the budget for what's left to be part of this bid. So we're out to bid in December, open bids in early January, and we had 4 bids. And our low bidder was D&J Landscape with a bid of $501,321. We have worked with D&J in the past. They actually installed our most recent playground at Dunham Place in 2022. So we've had a pretty good experience with D&J and would recommend awarding to them. So as I mentioned at the start, had about $475 available in the budget with a $501,000 contract. We're about $25,000 over. We do have some funds in capital, in the capital budget. For example, we had $100,000 budgeted for the official park ornamental fencing, which we've chosen to postpone. And so that would be available we would suggest using a portion of those funds to cover the additional requirement for Constitution Park. And looking to award to D&J, and we would start the project as soon as we possibly can when the weather allows. Again, as a reminder, we have the existing playground there will be removed and donated to the Kids Around the World organization. So basically, in order to get started on the project, once this contractor puts up construction fencing, then Kids Around the World can come in, remove the old equipment, and then again, when the weather allows, they can start doing removal, excavation, and preparing for the new playground and the new shelter. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The only thing I have to add, this will be our first playground that will be installed with the artificial turf surfacing versus the wood chips or the porter.
Maybe just one comment or question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I appreciate the transparency that you included in the memo about their most recent or their original violation. Underneath the contract that we would execute with D&J, is it appropriate for us, or do we have means request that they attest to fair wage employment?
It is part of our contract. Yeah, all of our contracts include these requirements, for example, prevailing wage.
Okay.
It's well documented in our bid documents that they prepare bids and using our documents. And then it's always included in our contract as well.
Great, okay. Thank you.
Yep. And they had the one violation, they paid the fine. And if they had another violation, it would mean
Sure.
a big problems for them as a company, not just for our project, but they wouldn't be able to bid any other projects. So I'm sure they're being very careful, I would hope, at this point.
Okay.
And again, we've not had any issues on the project that we had.
Great, thank you, Paul.
And they have certified that it's part of an apprentice program, so they meet that legislation.
They have certified that they have the they are enlisted in a union that would allow them to follow those. There are a number of rules related to, as a result of the grants that are being used for this project with state funds. There are additional requirements that we need to follow. We put all those requirements also in the bid documents. So this contractor knew they were going to need to follow those requirements. One of them being an apprenticeship requirement related to union laborers. And they have to have a certain percentage of the laborers in an apprenticeship program as well. So there's quite a few additional rules related to this particular project because of that grant funding.
That's helpful context. Thank you.
And we believe it may have been kind of evident in the bids that we saw. You know, for example, our last playground at Dunham Place, which didn't have as many requirements, it was just from our capital funds. We had 7 bids on that one. In this case, we only had 4. There were several contractors who normally bid on our playground projects that didn't bid this one, that might have been as a result of some of the, some of those additional requirements, but it's possible.
Yeah, and I would agree. Yeah, the end result of Dunham was fantastic. It's a great playground.
Very make a motion. Another question.
I'll move to authorize the executive director to enter into a contract with B&J Landscaping Incorporated for the Constitution Park renovation 2024 for a total contract amount of $501,321.04.
Second. Some pleasant discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom.
Aye.
Mr. Kattula.
Aye.
Mr. Lunt.
Aye.
Ordinance 1324 conduct in the parks.
This is an update to our annual ordinances governing behavior within our parks. Kevin has done a lot of work on that, so I thank him for that. I've consulted with the village, particularly since the police are the ones that enforce our ordinances. So we wanted to get some input from them, as well as our attorney, Dirk Price. He's reviewed that, made a few changes. And Kevin would be able to answer any questions you might have on any of the changes. But we take a look at this on a yearly basis and keep it updated.
No questions. Nice job, Tim.
Should make a motion then?
Sure, I move to approve that the board adopt ordinance 1324 conduct in parks.
Second.
No other discussion. Can we have a roll call, please?
Dahlstrom,
Aye.
Mr. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Kattula.
Aye.
Mr. Lunt.
Aye.
The ordinance 1325, an ordinance authorizing an easement agreement and temporary construction easement down this road.
Turn it over to Paul here in a second. This is easements for stormwater management. The village had requested at Sterling North. I believe 4 or 5 months ago. We discussed with the board in general, and Paul's been working with the village staff to put together the necessary documents, the easements areas. One thing I do want to note, part of their work will result in an underground vault, and then above ground, there will be control panels and a generator. So if the power goes out, the lift station from that vault will continue to work in the storm situation. We had mentioned at that meeting, making sure that the neighbors on either side knew that. I personally talked with the village administrator to me today, and he assured that yesterday their director physically talked to both of the neighbors, and they understand that once a week that generator is going to go off. Just with generators, you need to run it once a week. It is going to have a privacy fence around it, and they're well aware of all that. So turn it over to Paul for any of the other technical details.
Sure. Just wanted to share one thing here quickly. This is an exhibit that we shared with the board last time we spoke about this. Shows the location of the vault. So this is the intersection here of Curtis and Glenview that floods, where there's standing water after storms. So they would put storm sewers in the intersection. Then the underground vault would be here in this parcel, and then the pipe heading south into our park. And then would discharge near the creek. One minor change that we've made. Let's see if I can. Here we go. Just working through this, we made a minor change to the layout of the pipe. And that was just looking at, rather than having that pipe, it's underground, but rather than having it come across this open lawn space that we have within the park, which is not programmed, it's not, but it is open space that people could use. Rather than having it come across that open space and discharge kind of in this lawn area, we instead angled it over along this tree line on the west here to kind of get it out of that space. So just a minor change in that layout. So just wanted to show you that, so you know that we made that one change from the one that you saw previously.
Is that higher ground, Paul?
You mean to this on this side?
Yeah.
So all of it is pitching down towards the creek.
On the creek, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but they were gonna have to have the pipe stop and discharge somewhere about here, which is kind of in the lawn area that we maintain, and we didn't want exactly, and we wouldn't be able to mow it, so we went out there with the village and walked it and figured out that we could come over into this tree line, which is they will have to remove a few trees, but there are no high quality trees there. And take it south and then have it discharge here closer to the creek in an area that we don't really mow. It's not part of the space.
Is the intersection dam, is there an ice dam formed in the winter months?
Oh, I'm not sure. I know that after big storms, they have to pump it. They bring pumps out there to pump it so that people can get through the intersection.
Got it.
I'm not sure what happens in the wintertime. I don't know, Kevin, if you've
No,
seen.
I've never seen it fill, ice over or anything like that. It's mainly when we have big rainstorms and they usually bring out a bunch of trash pumps and pump it down into the creek.
And then just another view of it, rotated sideways essentially. So on the right is Curtis Street. And then this is the vault. These are the design drawings that the village has prepared that we'll be putting out to bid. So here you can see the vault. And then there will be two, the pumps will be in these two kind of manhole well structures next to the vault. So the pumps are in there and pump it into this pipe. And then as Bill mentioned here, would be the only thing above ground will be the control panel for the pump station. And then the generator in these two boxes that you see here. And they're going to put a privacy fence around that. And so then there's the pipe that comes into the park itself. And then what you have before you this evening is there are two easements that we're talking about. One is the easement agreement, the permanent stormwater easement that would be essentially the red dash line that you see on this drawing over the stormwater. The second is a temporary easement. It's a little bit larger area for them to construct, just for the construction purposes. But we have for your approval is ordinance 1325, which by approving the ordinance approves both of these two easements as part of this. I can answer any other questions.
There's no other questions or discussion? You have a roll call, Aidan?
I'll move to adopt ordinance 1325, authorizing an easement agreement and temporary construction easement for the village of Downers Grove.
Second.
Other discussion? We have roll call.
Mr. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Lund,
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom,
Aye.
Mr. Katsula.
Thank you.
Moving along into the approval of purchase of a John Deere 4x4 Pro Gator utility vehicle.
Yes, this would be for the golf course and it's outlined in the memo, but they'd be happy to answer questions if you have.
I think the key thing here is this is a Sourcewell government co-op purchase, so they take care of the bidding and we're getting that price through the contract. Obviously, the piece of equipment, 16 years old, we got our money's worth, so
Is this part of the regular rotation? I mean, do we have like a?
we have a capital plan.
So was part of that.
Yes,
I know we budgeted for it. It mentions here in the memorandum.
correct.
And that was budgeted for. This looks,
Well, we have, it's,
it's in the 310,000.
yeah,
I mean, we have estimates within there. But staff is required to purchase within that overall amount.
Hope I get to ride in the Gator.
Or questions or discussion? Do we have someone make motion?
I move to authorize the executive director to enter into an agreement with Rebels Turf and Tractor to purchase a John Deere 4x4 Pro Gator utility vehicle at a cost of $36,163.40.
Second.
Second. Other discussions? We have roll call.
Mr. Dahlstrom?
Aye.
Mr. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Katsula?
Aye.
Mr. Lunt?
Aye.
The approval to purchase Bobcat T6 track loader.
Same situation.
Again, for the golf course.
Yep.
Any questions on this?
No questions.
Make a motion to authorize the executive director to enter an agreement with Atlas Bobcat to purchase a Bobcat T66 track loader at a cost of $78,364.94.
Second.
We have roll call.
Mr. Bender? Mr. Lunt?
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom?
Aye.
Mr. Katsula?
Moving to item number 7, consideration Comcast 36-month dedicated fiber internet contract renewal.
Just a couple things and then Eric, Chris is remote tonight. Be happy to answer some questions. Just wanted to point out a couple things. One is I want to thank Chris for his diligence on this. It's not often we get a new contract that's less than what we had before. So I appreciate his work on that. Also, and it's in the memo, that we're adding to McCollum. One of the things that we've heard is we've talked to some national organizers for pickleball tournaments. You really need to have a very robust Wi-Fi connection, just for that tournament. Because the press and different things really utilize that and the participants expect it to. So we're planning ahead for putting that in. But like I said, Eric would be happy to answer any questions beyond that.
The only question I had, I talked to Bill briefly about it, is at what time do you think would be advantageous? I mean, this is another sole source agreement, right? Is to actually have it on the street as an RFP. Is there other service providers that maybe we can get a better cost at one point in time?
There are, we've had some phone conversations with one of them recently.
Okay,
The problem with that is that this type of fiber is individual to each company. So with this, Comcast put in the fiber. Another company would have to come in and put their own fiber in. Chris estimates that about $100,000
Okay.
of new fiber. So what would happen is they'd probably be competitive on the monthly cost, but that 100,000 we'd have to pay for upfront. So in this option, they were able to lower our prices, add to our services, and we've had really good service with Comcast. We've had no problems, no interruptions. So that's where we came up with the recommendation to go ahead and renew with them.
and it's gonna be a dedicated to the V over IP. We have phones over there, correct?
We do have phones.
So that's gonna be the V over IP phone system back to here, back to the main building, and
Chris, can you confirm that?
Yes, that is correct.
it'll do the video too.
That is correct. It'll pretty much do everything that we would need bandwidth wise as well.
Okay,
We're treating that as if it was just another one of our buildings. that part.
No, I understand. I was just, with sole source agreements, I think that, one point in time. They, should look at one point in time, putting it out on the street
Right.
and seeing what we get. I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
they may waive $100,000 fee, or they may keep it, and that would be better for decision making.
Right. Okay.
Just, that was the only comment.
Absolutely.
Question?
Make a motion that the executive director to enter in a 36-month agreement with Comcast for dedicated fiber services for a total of 3-year contract valued not to exceed $123,948, not including interstate taxes and fees or other additions.
Other discussion, we have a roll call.
Mr. Lunt.
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom.
Aye.
Mr. Bender.
Aye.
Mr. Katsula.
Moving ahead to board business, comments? No boards this year, so don't need to make a New Year's resolution. I didn't make it up to noon this year, but I was here for part of that earlier on. It's just great to hear the numbers for all the recreation registration and people trying to make a New Year's resolution and coming out to the fitness center. Hopefully they'll stay with it. And been quite a lot of pickleball going on too, which has been in the works for many years. With the lessons and the leagues, it's really starting, and open play is just a lot of different people get involved and exposed to the sport and the facilities here down the road. Thank you. Board member comment?
Everybody tonight, know it's been a challenging last 4 or 5 days with the extreme weather we've had. I trust you and yours have been safe. Haven't had any major home repairs, but if you had, I hope they were minor in nature.
And then to
Thank you. Just a couple items. Last day before the Christmas holiday, had a all full-time staff meeting, actually in this room. Worked out really well. Covered a number of subjects, had a couple of trainings. We announced the creation of the deputy director and those staff moves, and the feedback that I received both at that meeting and then the holiday party afterwards was very positive. So that was very good. Thanks to the commissioners that attended the holiday gathering we had at Pinstripes. I think we had all our full-time staff, but two, I think 2 was the last number I heard, which my time here is a record. I think we've hit on the right schedule to do the full-time staff meeting in the morning and then transition over to the party afterwards. And it was, again, very nice. People seem to be mingling and not just in their departments and that. So thank you to the board for allowing us to provide that to the staff. It worked out really well. I too would like to thank our staff for the last few days between the snow and the cold, particularly our registration staff that was here in the building until we closed a little bit early. And then the park staff, they're the ones that get the short end of this stick, having to be out there in the cold and moving snow all the time, and it just seems to keep coming. Thanking them for that, and then just the rest of the staff of figuring out, it's always a hard balance of we don't want to close, but then we have safety issues. First and foremost, we try to consider our staff and their safety of being here to provide the services, as well as trying to be open so that those that want to utilize it, we can do it. So I think through our discussions, we really hit a pretty good balance on that. The state mandated efficiency report, we're looking not in February, but in March to try and have our first meeting. I've already reviewed, Dave's put together the first draft, so the document is in draft form. So that will get out to you before that first meeting. I hopefully leave tomorrow for the National Golf Course Owner Operator Conference. Ken and I attend that. It's before the PGA show. Ken stays for the PGA show. I leave and go to IPRA. But that's the owner operator has really been good over the last few years. Both of us have taken a lot back, and a lot of things that we do out at Belmont, we learned at that conference and have implemented. So I'm looking forward to that. For those that are attending IPRA, IPD conference, the Saturday lunch is on Friday. It's not the Saturday lunch, it's the Friday lunch. We are in table 11. When you come in the left door, it'll be in the second row on the left-hand side, all the way in the back. Which means no one's winning an award this year because otherwise you'd be in the front. So we're in the back, easier access to the washroom during the event. And then lastly, I got a couple things turn it over to Eric to update on.
Just wanted to update staff on one of the items that we had dialogue on during the budget process. Dave and I have been working with the rec staff, Michelle, Maureen, Josh, on an update to the fees for the fitness center. We are going to add on to the military fee that's currently offered. It's currently offered for active military. It'll now be active military and those that are veterans that have been honorably discharged. In addition, that will also add on the police, the fire, and the EMTs that either reside in Downers Grove or work for the Downers Grove departments. The way we'll model that is, if it's simple, it'll be modeled like the former discount was for the military or that we do for the seniors. So that'll be a nice option to honor those that serve for us.
How do we verify discharge status?
Do we have a plan for that?
We're working through all that.
Okay.
And what type of identification?
DD 14. DD 214.
I'll just use an example of someone I happened to meet today on the track, but if it's a former military that just recently bought a membership like today.
We'll adjust that.
Retroactive.
We'll take care of all that. And I believe Dawn will work with us to promote that so that it's out there.
That's awesome.
All I have. Thank you all for the thoughts on that.
Recreation.
As Bob mentioned, pickleball in this building is going crazy. In fact, last Friday on a snow day, at one point, there were more pickleball players playing in the gym than there were people working out or walking on the track. I guess Sally said at one point the pickleball group went outside in their shorts with their paddles and stood taking a picture in the snow. So they are obviously hardcore. A couple things in the recreation report I want to highlight, as Bob mentioned, also, we were able to bring back Countdown to Noon on New Year's Eve. First time since 2019, and we had 200 participants. But that doesn't include the grandparents, parents, aunts, and uncles that may have come as well. There were over 400 people for that event. So really, staff loves that event and loves seeing the balloons drop from the ceiling. They do a great job programming that. The other thing that I think in the report, you'll see the pictures. I think it's really cool.
Here, we'd like to thank Kevin for allowing us to have confetti.
Oh, yeah.
In the report, you may have noticed some pictures, and I think that those are from a really cool program. It's a joint program. It's through Lyman Woods, but also in conjunction with the museum. And the kids actually got to be archaeologists. And they dug up, and the relics that you see in the pictures are actually from the houses that used to be on that property and then were leveled at one point. But the kids are actually the ones that dug this up and discovered. So I think that's just a really cool joint program, but also for the kids to find stuff like that. And the other thing I wanted to point out was you may have noticed the first day of winter spring registration. The grand total for 2023 was 229,000, and that total for 2022 was 216,000. So that's all in one day, just one day of resident and then non-resident registration that makes up that total. So again, it shows me that our programs continue to be very popular.
You know where we're at now, Dave?
No, I didn't see the actual total. I can certainly get that for you.
Curious.
And I can answer any other questions if there are.
I just had one or two questions or comments. I noticed group fitness was up significantly
Yes.
and personal training was down, which is a trend. We think individuals are just not committed to personal training and it's conducted in the home. Do we think they're repurposing their time
Well,
away from personal training to another avenue or program like pickleball?
personal training is a tricky one because you buy a package. And it's really up to you when you want to schedule those. So somebody may buy a 8 package, but do one and then not come back for another month. So it really depends on the individual and how quick they use them.
So what we're tracking is visits over a defined period of time.
Correct. That has been one of our emphases for our new supervisor, Marie, is the group exercise. She's, added new classes. She's revamping the schedule. One of the things that we have her looking at for the future is with the group exercise classes, but potentially adding classes that are geared towards individuals that may have MS or some kind of neurological condition, and the classes would be designed to kind of limit the effects of those conditions that they might have. So that's a goal we're looking at trying to implement for the fall schedule, but that would be again above and beyond what we currently have right now. So.
And I noticed that the track was down too.
Well, a lot of that was in the past, we were open to anybody.
Yeah.
And now it's, residents have to pay a fee, and we have seen a decrease because of that, so.
Those are one of those things like the golf course too, where it's really weather driven. And I think the lack of snow in December could have encouraged more people to walk outside, because I've heard people that walked and ran outside.
Yeah.
A lot longer this year.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It was warm up into the New Year holiday.
I met the vet.
Thanks, Dave.
Mhm.
Golf report.
Again, I think the numbers speak for themselves, but I will just highlight, in 2022, we did 42,000 rounds. In 2023, we did 44,000 rounds. So that's an increase of 2,468 rounds, which leads to the revenue, which again, 2022 was fantastic with 1.8, but we hit 2.1 this year. So that's an increase of over $318,000. The other thing I wanted to point out for the board is for 2023, we sold over $98,000 in merchandise. That total was $53,000 in 2022. Most of that can be directly related to the fact that we rebranded the golf course and people wanted the new logo. So will we hit that number, this year? Hopefully, but we do expect a regression because a lot of people have purchased the new merchandise. But it's a very popular item. So we will work to keep things in stock, but that are the highlights of the golf report. I can answer any other questions.
I think I only had one comment on the golf report, and it was related to 2024 capital projects, specifically evaluate and audio system speakers in the driving green shelter. I think it's an effective means to communicate. I also think, opposite side of the coin, it can be an annoyance too. And disruptive to, other members either on the range or on the putting green. 9 is probably the closest hole. I would be curious to know if we can communicate with golfers via other mediums, like such as, silent digital media on a screen, push to text, leveraging either T-Snap or the new system to come in 25. Or if we're solely announcing golfers that are late to their tee time. I like the audio system, but at the same time, when I'm on the putting green and I hear it, it's like, okay. Yeah, so just my personal opinion. I'd like to see some other options if we have them.
Yeah, we can certainly research and present some
We've
options.
talked about actually putting music out there.
Yeah, music would be.
Not all the time,
Yeah.
but at certain times, because, you know, with the advent to Top Golf and everything else, that is a trend.
Yeah.
Particularly with
For
the
sure.
younger demographic like that. So Ken and I have talked about that, but I'm gonna be with him for the next few days, so I'll add that to my both the announcement type thing, or, and maybe there's a text way for that too. So looking at Carter, we actually talked about the text messaging, like restaurants use.
Yeah.
For a Venture Falls spray ground, so that if someone comes and we're at capacity, maybe we could, it's one of, not doing it for sure, but we're looking at is, oh, have fun in the park or on the playground, and then you get a text push message that your slot's available. So we haven't started to look at that kind of stuff. So maybe that's something we can do at the golf course.
I like it. I can hear Barry now.
But for the years ago, we did have that and there wasn't a lot of complaints. It not only, it carried.
Yeah.
The screen out there, you hear it all over.
Yeah.
So.
You can hear Barry without that.
So John, thank you for bringing up the capital. I just wanted to mention to the board that we're going to include that going forward so that you'll always have an update of where we are in capital projects for the golf course. So that's a new section that's been added and that will be continued on a monthly basis. We'll keep you updated of where we're at.
On marketing.
All right. Well, since the beginning of December, it's been very busy with a lot of different things that we've been communicating to the public, whether it be new rates or closures. And then now, you know, the ice skating rink is open. So just lots of e-blasts, social media posts going out. We have been running a pretty successful fitness campaign. So we're about halfway through our digital ad campaign with that. So I'll be having some stats in the next board report for that. We're working on our summer recreation guide right now. So all of our camp information will be rolling out soon. I know Michelle's like, yay, summer's almost here. The other thing we've been working on is our agency showcase competition display. So Craig, for you, at IPRA at our conference next week, we'll be having a huge display that's part of the annual marketing competition. And this year we're focusing on everything golf. So our entire display and all of our entries will be focused on the rebranding efforts. So we're really excited about that. And then other than that, we're making good progress on our sponsorship for the year. We have already secured the Eric Hamilton team will be coming back for the third year as our presenting sponsor for the summer concert series. And we're almost halfway to our budget goal for sponsorship. So getting lots of sponsors signed on and still plugging away on advertising. I think that's the nut we have to crack this year. But yeah, with that, are there any questions?
What's the showcase for Belmont look like at the conference next week? Or is there going to be a big reveal and we have to wait?
So
8 days?
all attendees can view it first thing on Friday morning.
Okay.
So it's actually hosted right near where registration is. So yeah, all of the tables will be set up in there, and then you can actually vote on Friday in the IPRA app for the conference.
You are gonna make it.
Yes.
Okay.
It will be a grand reveal.
You didn't answer that.
Yes, I am.
We're worried that, yeah, the pieces, all the components have not yet arrived. So we're still waiting for the presents to arrive.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you. Planning, construction.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to give an update on the master plan process that we've been undergoing. So in November and December, we were with our consultant making some progress on our public and stakeholder engagement. So phase one of the master plan is really kind of information gathering. And so we have an engagement plan. Part of that was in December, our consultant prepared an online survey that was made available for most of the month of December. That was sent out. A link to the survey was sent out via email to our large contact lists. And then thanks to Dawn's efforts, the library actually shared the link as well to their membership, their email list. And so as a result, we had over 1,000 surveys that were fully completed surveys. I think maybe close to 1,200 surveys completed, plus another almost 500 that were started, maybe not fully completed. But our consultant with the software that she's using, she may be able to capture some usable information from surveys that were started, from the questions that were answered at least. So we have, I think hopefully some very good information from that. We also, staff and the consultant, we scheduled stakeholder focus group meetings with individuals in the community, with our community partners, partner agencies and affiliates. So we had a series of those. That was last Thursday, had four groups that we met with for that. And then lastly, tomorrow we have a workshop with all of our full-time staff, that our consultant is coming to do a workshop with our full-time staff. So all of that information that we've been gathering up to this point, our consultant is putting together those results into a report that she will be attending our next meeting, so our February 15th board meeting, to present the findings from that phase 1 information gathering to the board at that meeting. And we're also hoping to have, as part of her visit, a strategic priority development workshop with the board to start looking at some of our some priorities and some things that might come out of the phase 1 information that we've seen. So that, again, we're looking to schedule as part of the February 15th meeting. This meeting.
And the 15th being, has the 15th been chosen just from a pure timing component?
Yes, that that was when all of the information gathering is complete and she was ready to move on to the next stage, which was presenting the results, and the best opportunity we felt was at that meeting.
Got it. So not the workshop meeting on the 6th, just because all of the work wouldn't have been completed.
I don't believe we had a workshop scheduled.
Yeah, that's good. My calendar, I'll take that out.
Yeah, so we just looked at what the one meeting that we had, the one board meeting we had in February to
Got it. Okay.
target that one. So
Dean, I did accept all of your invitations, but perhaps I just carried forward the calendar from 2023.
Oh, gotcha.
and happy to answer any other questions.
So following the 5th meeting on the 15th, what's the framework or staff and the board thereafter?
There will be some after, I think, she's looking to do some a workshop with the board, and then with that information, working with we've put together a planning team, a staff team that will work with her to kind of prioritize some of and develop some goals and objectives from that information. I don't have the schedule in front of me for how the rest of that goes, but I know that we're targeting having this work complete end of May. So there would be, I'm sure, another presentation to the board before then.
Okay.
As we begin to develop some of the goals and objectives.
Okay. So our first opportunity to review survey findings will be February 15th.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody have a question?
Thank you.
Parks.
Good evening. So the park staff has been very busy the past couple weeks. It seems like after once the new year hit, with snow removal and then sled hills, all the winter activities. We opened Prince Pond today. So we're hoping to get a good 4 to 5 days out of that. And next week looks pretty warm. So yeah.
That's it.
So and then in the month of December, we were with the warm temperatures, we got a lot done out there. Some of the activities that parks had done, we installed 12 new mini park signs out there. So that pretty much covered all of the mini park signs that we have out there. And I think we have 3 large park ID signs that are in the budget for next year, which will complete replacement of all of those as well, except for Lyman Woods. We installed a bee yard fence at Lyman Woods. And then in the facilities, we replaced the floor in room 202, a preschool room, and then painted and installed new blinds as well. We just on Friday wrapped up the Christmas tree recycling program. We ended up with 148 trees at Whitlock Park and 90 trees at McCullum. So that, and I think some of that, this is probably the most trees we've had since we started the program. So I'm not sure, why that is, but there was a lot of them this year.
You're not still accepting trees, are you?
We are not. As of Friday, we pulled all the bins and all that.
Did you notice a lot of them were small, miniature in nature?
No, there were full size trees.
Pulled a wood chipper in the garage bay and pull off, it smelled like Christmas.
Right. Last but not least, we just posted for an assistant superintendent of parks. Mike did announce his retirement, March 1st. So, we're hoping to get someone in the door at least maybe a little before he leaves or shortly after. So, that's all I have. Be happy to answer any questions.
Congrats to Mike. I think there's probably several individuals in this room that are envious of the situation. that he's in.
Right.
Myself
Yeah.
included.
After 38 years,
Yeah.
that's a long career. So.
I had texted Eric and Bill and the rest of the board because we were just on a thread prior to the holidays. The Dahlstrom family took a nice walk at Lyman Woods on Christmas Eve and it was so warm. It was very enjoyable and we got I actually managed to keep my children quiet. It was a huge feat. That was probably the peak, of our holiday season was keeping my kids quiet on a walk through Lyman Woods. And we managed to see 14 white cottontail deer.
Yeah.
So it was a great afternoon.
We planning any mission for Mike at a board meeting? That's a pretty.
It's a long time.
Service.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
For sure.
And we'd asked him what he wanted and
Yeah.
want something at the park office and then everybody needed Goldfinger afterwards, so. That's what we're gonna do.
Thank you. Eric?
That's okay. That's okay. Before I get started on the actual financial reports, I just wanted to let you guys know that audit preparation is underway for fiscal year 2023. It is my understanding that Sickage is ready to email out the information to each board member. Included in that information is that lovely fraud questionnaire that each person will have to just respond to with simple questions, asking if you're aware of any fraud at the park district or how to mitigate fraud. Final field work begins February 19th. So we would ideally like those questionnaires turned in prior to that. You can email them directly back to Sickage or feel free to, you can send them to me and I can forward them on. In board pack is the financial report for November and December. November's in there for informational purposes only because we didn't have board reports at the December meeting. So we just included that. As for December, there are still year-end entries being made because of the audit process. So some of the revenues and expenses will change just a little bit, which is why the report is labeled as preliminary, because obviously the numbers aren't final. The cash balance is still very solid. As you know, moving into this beginning part of the year, we will still continue down that slight downward trend because we don't get our first property tax distribution until late May or early June. So I just want to call that out, that while we are on that downward trend, that's why, because we don't have that major revenue source coming in. Operating revenues for 2023, based on the prelim numbers, came in very strong. We performed at 107% of budget, and we are currently exceeding 2022 overall revenues by 12%. Obviously, golf revenues are a huge contributing factor. Investment income came in $265,000 higher than budget. And we had strong personal property replacement taxes that came in higher than budget. As for operating expenses, the report currently shows that these are sitting at about 95% of the budget. However, we do expect these to finish closer to 97 to 99% once the final entries are made. This aligns with the projections staff has been saying the last few months. IT highlights, Chris continues to work on several projects for the IT department that have carried over from the previous year. But something new is now that the finance and IT departments are split up, there will be a separate IT report moving forward. So that will be at the February meeting, you'll see a separate January IT report. I'm happy to take any questions.
No questions from me.
I just have one. Remind me, did we forecast interest income to come down in 2024?
We did not forecast it to come down. And the feedback that we have from our investment manager shows it actually increasing
Increasing.
based on their projections.
Good report. Thank you.
Thank you.
C-Spark,
Do not have anything.
doing the unfinished business, which is fees for
We had a discussion, I think back in October, with the board, and at that time, we said we would bring it back for further discussion as to the direction the board would like to see the staff take as far as fees or no fees. And eventually, we did do, some research that's in your pack as far as different spray grounds and what their fees are and who charges fees and doesn't charge fees. Again, the staff is just looking for direction. We're preparing our summer brochure, so we would like to get whichever direction that is. So we've reformatted the memo a little bit, but we're really open for board direction. And whatever that is what the staff will implement.
And the recommendation we had was resident children 25.
Yeah, on the top part of your memo, that has what was presented before, and that was essentially creating a pass that could be purchased that would get you both access to the spray ground and the water park. And then the other option would be is if someone didn't want to purchase a pass, they would have a daily admission fee. So if that's the route the board chooses, so.
And we're still talking about including the spray ground with use of the mini golf.
Yeah, that would be the pass.
Yeah.
Right, and that pass, if implemented, would not be available for non-residents. So.
Yes, my position from August really hasn't changed, that it seems we don't need to put such a high fee on the using these services. I understand that we need passes, and I understand those passes need to be paid for. Because that's the easiest way to track who's a resident. They show up there. So I don't mind having that, but $25 still feels high for what to me is supposed to be a public benefit, that spray ground. Something that, we raised money from property owners to build this, and I didn't when I voted to do that, I didn't do that expecting them to then have to pay again every year to use it. So in my direction would not to be to have these fees.
And I'm inclined with Commissioner Bender for the reason that we stated. I'll be more than happy to entertain maybe a year from now, operational expenses. But I'm in concurrence with what the Commissioner had articulated.
Supportive of fee structure. I also think we have an opportunity to be nimble, intra-season. We always have been one of the strengths of the district. Having visited many of the water amenities and districts, you know, bordering and neighboring districts. I'm accustomed to paying a fee, and I don't think Downer should be any different.
Sandra, do you have any comment? Can you hear us or?
I could, I just couldn't get my mouse to the unmute.
Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I'm looking at two screens. I am, continue to say we, like other uses of pools, et cetera, do cost money, and maintenance costs money, and or has cost related. I am in favor of the fee. I do think it's minimal. I think that it, again, we can be nimble, but I do think that, usage of this and, the miniature golf together. I mean, miniature golf by itself always had a fee, so that is something that our residents are used to. I think that, based on the, increased staffing, et cetera, that this is going to be something that, will help to offset those costs.
And to be clear, I'm not supportive of the non-resident fee. We go for it.
Yeah.
But this is to generate $10,000. I mean, what is the park district getting out of $10,000 to charge people 25? It just doesn't. For the reaction that I would expect to get from some of our residents to the $25 fee. For us to bring in $10,000. It seems, we just heard, when 107% of our budget that we expected for last year. It seems that's something that we have. So that's where I'm gonna stay.
And again, staff will do whatever the board census is. Just so I understand, are you? Because I'm not understanding.
Sure.
The resident side, are you saying no fee at all or less than the $25?
I'm saying less than 20, because I understand creating a pass that people can use.
Yeah.
And that pass covering the cost.
Okay.
Of that.
Just to make, yeah, just to understand.
Probably closer to $5 or $7.
Okay.
Not $25.
And I think, from our perspective, that makes some sense. Because we did no fee and then we tried a year later to add a fee, then it's like, why was it free for a year? So at least there's some sort of charge for the fee. I think that makes options going forward just a little bit easier for us.
I do think in looking at having a fee, I mean, there are always the options for families where the fee is not accessible, that they could have a fee waiver, correct? And and Brett, are you thinking that, like, say for a family, I mean, that's also if you have 5 kids, it's a different cost than if you have 2 children. So would you think of a family fee, or are you thinking still a per child fee, or what are you proposing?
I mean, I think the per child fee makes sense. I just think that the people who are looking to use this spray ground, right? Are the people who can't afford the swim and racket club, right? Are the people who are minding every dollar that's going out the door. And if they do have, we have 3 kids, now it's $75 plus 2 parents, now it's 100, I mean, that gets to be $100 pretty quickly. And for a lot of people, they see a public park and they think, I would like to take my kids there because that's one of the things I can afford. Hey, my, property taxes, or if I'm a renter, my landlord's property taxes that I pay through my rent went to building that thing, and now you're telling me I've got to pay over $100 a year to use it. I just feel like I know people who are going to hear that number and be like, are you just kidding me? And it's all so that we can raise $10,000, so that's why it just sounds like a lot of money to me. For the family that can't necessarily buy every grocery that they want, to the family that, has to go to a certain grocery store and has to say, like, we can't add the steak this week, or we can't add the almond milk because it costs more, or whatever it is. So I just always envisioned this program when we first voted on this to be something that could be enjoyed by everybody in town. I just want to see that happen. And I think $25 and $15 is just too high.
I do hear you on that. I appreciate, considering, I think, my perspective is it's so much, I don't see this as, like, it's so much less than joining a pool. So from that perspective, it seems like a reasonable amount. From a perspective of, once it adds up and it's $100 for a summer, that could be, a factor that makes a difference on whether or not a family uses the space. Coming up with a fee then of, is it, $5 for children, $10 for children, $5 for parents? Then you're at closer to $50 for a family.
Yeah, and I'm more comfortable with that because I'm sure I don't know the exact cost of that ID and the staff time to make the ID and to do the check and the software that we use to do the check on the resident thing. I'm sure all in.
Right.
That cost might run, but somewhere between $4 and $7. I don't know exactly. Right. So if you're telling me 10 and 5, I feel a lot better than I do at 25 and 15.
I agree with the commissioners.
I didn't get a chance to. For what it's, but I do also favor a user fee, if you will. I think, yeah, the community paid for it and it's all been put in everything, but to cover the direct costs that are related to facility, I'd like to see something, whatever it might be, but I think the users who are the ongoing users of it should have to pay something.
Yeah, I mean, from staff perspective, again, we're just looking for direction, but 10 and 5, I think being to have some fee just for the future. And then again, we'll treat this, this is a little unique because it's a new facility, but same as we do with our fitness fees and our golf fees, it's part of the budget discussion. If there's going to be any increases in those, we bring those to the board, get direction from the board, and then that gets baked into the budget, and then those are set. So we would continue doing that going well.
Yeah, the thing with setting the fee though is, an increase in fee, I think, is noticed more than an initial fee. So, making sure that if there's, costs to be covered for, creating the pass, for the time, et cetera, for monitoring that, maybe making sure that that's a number that seems right. Because I think if you go to say next year, this year it was $10, next year it's 12, that's a jump that people notice.
And the real cost in operating that is, it's not so much in the past as it is staff for monitoring, just the maintenance, the water, the power, the chemicals, just the operating of it is, and so that's why we thought there should be some offset similar that we do like with the rec center, and that's where we were coming from, but again, you know, that fee structure, if that's
I think it's
board wants,
just
it's fine.
how I look at public parks, and I know that the mini golf course has always been paid for, get paid mini golf
Right.
course.
Nobody pays to use a public park, right? If I want to go play baseball on a baseball field in Downers Grove, I can just go play baseball on base. If I want to, the park equipment that we put in, $125,000, right? If we got a shovel there, we've got to clean that up once in a while, we've got to clear debris if branches fall. The nature of the public park is not that I go there and pay fees that cover me going there. The nature of the public park is it is part of the community, something that everybody shares the burden of affording so that everybody can enjoy it. And I don't treat that the spray ground that differently from how I would treat any of our parks. And that's what I thought we were creating when I voted for the $3.5 million of roads for this.
Can you remind me, are we considering a physical ID or a digital ID?
I don't know what we're considering, but
It's still being researched.
yeah,
The goal, I mean, with it, you know, if we have to, we would do a physical, but obviously if we have a virtual one, it would make it a lot easier. The other thing that we could consider, you know, we on paper there, it says about having a pass that is both spray ground and mini golf. We certainly could look at an option that's just a spray ground pass that would be considerably cheaper. If the board wanted to go that route, is to give another option for those that want to take advantage of being able to go and do mini golf and spray at the same time. Or if somebody just wants to, they aren't interested in mini golf, then they could purchase I would think of a very reasonable priced just spray ground pass as an option that, you know, we don't have to do that, but that could be another option.
I think there's an opportunity to create a separate line item for each physical ID that's created. Whether that's $1, $2, $5, I don't, it's just, I'll let you guys determine the fee. But my point is that if we're issuing a physical ID card and there's an associated cost to print, I'd like the responsibility to be on the resident to maintain their physical ID card. And if they should lose it, I do believe an additional fee should be incurred. If it's intra-year, maybe we give it to them, but if it's returning following year, they have to read it. So if we're you know, considering that in the 25 and the 15, perhaps that's a way that we also can reduce the expense.
And to further answer your question about the ID card, we have learned that VSI is coming out with an app that would take care of a lot of that, but we don't know timing wise. Talk with Bill and, you know, do we really want to be the first one out of the gate to be, you know, a so-called guinea pig? So we're looking at hopefully being able to implement that, but it probably wouldn't be ready in time for the opening of the.
if we do have a physical card, I think it's short-lived.
Right.
A year or two.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I mean, QR codes are inexpensive.
but then, and Brett, I also want to say, because we've talked about this in staff, we really expect your philosophical direction on this. We've actually torn on that. If you would ask me 20 years ago, before tax caps and everything else, it was hard to start charging fees in that. So I think we should be accessible to as many people as we can. I think those are really well points taken.
And
Like,
because the golf course is already separate,
I don't mind if we just don't include the golf course in whatever the pass is. I think you might find you get more money because more people are drawn there. They're gonna go play golf. They're gonna pay whatever the fee for the golf is, right? The thing with the digital passes. I could have seen myself when I was 10 riding my bike there, riding with friends.
Yeah.
And it's still a lot of 10-year-olds who don't have or don't have cell phones, I mean, don't have cell bikes, they don't have cell phones. And so like I fear going all digital because it is a place that kids might wander to on their.
All right.
And we could give a hybrid option, because, yeah, my kids didn't have
But-
cell phones.
But I understand too, because like I hate carrying in more around than my phone, right? I want everything
We were permitting children without adults though.
Are we, no?
No, they have to have a guardian under.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so kids can't do it.
Right, they have under,
Under 12, right?
under 16, they'll need an adult.
Sorry, all these rules are so new. I'm still trying to. Well, why don't we, for this year, decouple the mini golf?
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
And do the 10 and 5 or 5 and whatever.
Yeah.
How
if we
much-
read-
And then we can add that. We'll have history next year. Maybe we add that as a new option the following year.
How much does a round of mini golf cost currently?
$5.
So do both at 5.
I think there's gonna be.
Yeah, that's why we had, we can certainly do that.
And if we're thinking about demand being high and sending people out into the park, if you purchase the pass for both mini golf as well as the spray ground, that's gonna be a natural overflow area.
Mhm.
Now, you could also make the argument, it's a natural overflow area. Hey, what do? I go over and I buy a mini golf, but I have the option to do so. So, I mean, you could skin this cat multiple. So.
Attendance is our number one, at least my number one concern. Carter knows that. We met the other day on that. And one of the things that I talked to Carter about is starting out being very conservative and anticipating, a lot of demand. I really don't want us to be in a situation where, a family gets their kids all slicked up and in their suits and excited and show up and we tell them it's a 2-hour wait.
Yeah.
How are we gonna try to communicate that and manage that? I don't think any price point that we're talking 5 or 25 is going to address that issue. I think it would have to be significantly more to dissuade people from coming. So I think we gotta not manage that by fees, but we need to manage that just by how we're gonna operate. And staff knows that it's not gonna be perfect. I've also told them it's not working, pivot, be very nimble. We know what we're trying to do is create that good customer service. But we don't know what we're dealing with yet either. If pickleball is any indication, there's gonna be a line. So I think we need to not make fee decisions based on trying to manage, how many people are gonna show up, because they're coming regardless.
Oh, I know they are, yeah.
One of the things we've talked is, at least for the first month or two, we're probably not gonna allow non-residents. Because again, we're concerned about everybody around us just overwhelming, and our residents that paid for this won't have access to it. And then we can learn from it and then start feathering that in. We've even talked to, maybe there's blocks of times, when we learn when it's a little slower, maybe that's non-resident time. We do by law have to create a path for non-residents, but we can put some restrictions on that. So we're gonna start out very conservative on it, just because we do think, this is our aquatic option. There's gonna be a lot of demand.
Can you remind me again where people would pick up a season pass?
Doesn't have to, do they have to come here to the rec center?
No,
Or is,
Well, that was original discussion. We had talked about that. What we've talked about is just, they can be able to get they can come here, of course, or they'll be able to do on-site at the mini golf building. So either or, but where before we were kind of focusing on making them come here.
yes,
The change now is, we've that's not gonna work. So we'll have the option of going both.
so even having that, if we're moving to the lower price, I mean, it's like, do you want to pay $5 to get in here today, or do you want to pay $10 to get in here all year?
Right.
You know,
They'll be able to do that at both locations.
that they can just do that while they're there.
Right.
And then very few people will spend the $5 to get in there the one time, right?
Or $10, whatever.
Yeah.
Or yeah, we're at $5 from one, so. Yeah, I mean, that's the direction that I like going in.
we can make that work. So we're at $5.
An introductory fee.
We were at 10 for kids and 5 for adults.
Yes.
And limited to the pool.
Yeah, we're gonna peel mini golf off, and leave that as it is.
We'll see if there's clamoring for a.
All encompassing pass and see what kind of feedback we get over the summer.
Right. And Carter, if you're getting, hey, can you create a pass or whatever, you know, we could offer that mid-season too. I mean, we don't have to wait. So.
10 for a season pass, 5 for
Adults. Kids are 10, which is backwards from normal, right?
Right.
10 for
But-
kids and 5 for
Okay,
adults,
for a season pass
for the season pass.
and a daily is
What was
Five.
was 5,
Five.
5 and 2.
5 and 2.
Yes,
which most people aren't gonna buy.
And non-resident is 8.
non-resident, we had,
we had four,
well, it's cheaper now than for, well, it's adult.
no, it'd be four and 8.
Yeah.
And again, remember, we talked about we anticipate that the users are gonna be the kids, of course. And the parents won't necessarily be as active, but they count against our capacity limit. So that's why we thought charge a higher, fee for the youth because they're gonna be the active users. And then a smaller fee for the adults.
Comfortable with bumping up that non-resident
Absolutely.
to like 15 and 10.
No problem at all.
Okay, let's do that.
That's just a one time.
Daily.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
the
daily.
Yeah, the only option a non-resident would have to be to pay the daily.
Getting attendance and we need non-residents, which I highly doubt. We can always run specials and drop that.
I mean, my concern there is,
Somebody wants to bring their kids and their kids' friends, and the kid friend lives in Westmont. Now they're like, no, there's
Right.
$10 for this kid.
So. That absolutely can happen and probably will happen. At the same time, we're just gonna ask for an ID and we're not grilling people. Again, we want a good experience out there.
And because we have to monitor the capacity, we'll know, I mean, if somebody shows up and there's only, 100 people in this playground, we've got plenty of flexibility that way, so.
And throw out one other, it's your idea, crazy idea, you can think about this. But a grandparent's day, when your resident grandparent brings their grandchild, who may not be a resident. Grandma and grandpa get in free. Kids get.
Steph is nodding their heads over there. So,
List.
yeah.
Just make sure you have twice the amount of ice cream that would normally be out.
Monday.
Sunday fun day.
Carter and Michelle and Josh have already some cool ideas to do stuff. So.
Carter, not that there's a lot of pressure, but we passed $1.6 million without a peep. But this splash pad, look at how much conversation. So not to say that welcome aboard.
Well, it's important because I think Brett, you said it really well. I mean, it affects our residents directly and their impression and how they use the parks. It's an important subject.
It's gonna be, I know it's a ridiculous question. What are we doing? A photograph for their kids or just an ID card and that's it, or?
That'll be kind of dictated by what BSI system can do.
Okay,
But if we print, digital ID cards and you have to buy a printer, and those are fairly expensive and you go through a lot of ribbons, so it might be easier just to issue, a card without a picture. You get into that, now you gotta come take a picture.
yeah,
You know,
no, I was just.
What if you come in a time they're closed? I mean, so we're, again, a lot of those details are being flushed
Or
out.
you just keep passing the card around
Oh.
the neighborhood and help. That's what I was more going for.
Right.
Not that I would ever do anything like that as a.
Yeah, and we still have it, again, in our system,
Yeah,
in our registration system, we can attach pictures.
okay,
So even if there's a card and then you pull up and, it's clearly not the person in the picture,
no, I get
that
it.
is that option. So, but when you have to start taking pictures at both locations, you run into a lot of logistics. So,
I fully understand.
Sandra, we don't want to leave you out either.
No, I'm in agreement with all of this. I apologize. I have an older dog who's sick. That's why I had to
Oh.
turn off my camera and turn off my sound, but we're all well now. So, But yes, I'm good with where we have landed.
And I want to thank my fellow board members and the staff
For hearing me out there.
excellent.
Well, that's important. to me.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion?
No. Again, you know, the board doesn't typically vote on individual
Right.
fees as part of the budget process, but this is separate. We wanted to get direction from the board and have the board let us know which direction they want us to go, and then we'll. And now Michelle knows what to put in the brochure. And Dawn's happy.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. We'll move on. Do we have any new business? Have to move on to our second recognition of visitors.
There's no online visitors.
We need executive session.
We do not. But before we adjourn, just one thing with the conference coming up. Again, I'll be there Wednesday through the end of the conference. If you guys need anything or whatever, just text me and I'll meet up with you, particularly you, Craig. That hotel can be very, very confusing. So anything you need, just text me and I'm more than happy to help you out. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Question regarding conference, who from staff is attending?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I can get you a list.
There's quite a few.
Just
Who
call
from
it. Shout outs.
The only
Shout out
one
some
you
names.
would know.
Josh, Carter, Marie, Dawn, Paul, Dave, Eric,
Anna, Claire,
Anna, Claire,
Ryan,
Ryan.
Katie, there's quite
Katie.
a bit. We have a big crowd this year.
It's a good group.
We have a big crowd this year.
Jane.
But we do have a number that are presenting.
We have, well, we had 3 and now we have 4 because Carter's actually presenting. But now, yeah, we have 4 of our staff members are actually presenting sessions at the conference.
And I will be at the foundation silent auction, so feel free to bid away.
Nothing else? Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call evening, please.
Mr. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Lunt,
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom.
Aye.
Mr. Katula.
Aye.
Ms. McDonald.
She's mouthing.
Sorry, aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Great job.
We're saying about us proving the concept so easy. I've actually seen it before when I've had a board at another location